Well, hello. I'm back in Bradbourne. The reason I'm back in Bradbourne is that last week I discovered a wonderful route, rode it about half an hour route, only to find out that my video recording had failed, so I was quite disappointed about that. Anyway, I'll say more about that in a minute. Just an interesting point about Bradbourne is that I wondered why the signs that say Bradbourne thankful and Bradbourne doubly thankful, and so a bit of googling I found that it was classified as thankful because everyone in the village who fought in the First World War survived, and then later on doubly thankful because all were survivors in the Second World War too, and apparently that is one of only 14 villages in the country that has this status. So I'm setting off on exactly the same route. So I did my Relive app last week, so I'll just add that on with the date emitted because it's the 16th and today's the 23rd. My route out of the village, as it was last week, it wasn't planned. I set my my journey plans on my Beeline app with about 5 waypoints, and I set off from that little monument where I've set off from today, and the first instruction was to turn round, but I thought, no, I'll carry on and see where it leads. And as it turned out, pretty early in the journey is perhaps one of the most picturesque parts of the route, down a nice hill with a great view. So I'm doing exactly the same route again, and hopefully won't be any busier traffic than it was last week, because it was a good journey last week, and my destination is Tea Room at Hulme, so I'm calling there again on this one. So back to my failure of recording last week. It was entirely human error, which I blame the fact that the sun was shining on my screen, and it's not the first time that's happened. Perhaps more devastating from my point of view was did a ride over to Hulme Bridge, and what I thought I'd filmed it going both directions over Hulme Bridge. It was about 5 years ago. I'd only got a little 125 scooter then, so it was quite a journey just to get to Hulme Bridge, avoiding the fastest of the roads. And we'd been in a group of us, gone in quite a nice cafe for lunch, and then I was outside setting my camera, and it wasn't this camera, it was like a handheld camera, but on the 125 scooter it mounted on the front racks without too much vibration. So I thought I'd set it to record, but sun shining on screen as it was last week, it turned out I hadn't set it to record. So a bit different being in part of Derbyshire to being quite a long distance for the Hulme Bridge. So I did go back a couple of years later and record it a bit more successfully that time, although on a different scooter. I'd got the ADV 350 by then, so it wasn't quite a mammoth journey to get there like it was on the 125. Going back to my intro page, I've now put a bit of a tongue-in-cheek thing of rider without a man cave, and that's because, as I mentioned on the video, or one of my videos, quite a few of the YouTube channels I watch, they start off with a nice introduction in the man cave or garage where they keep the bikes or whatever they want to call it, and I think it adds a bit of interest to it with this intro. But I've not got room for shed in the back garden. I've barely got room for my bike in the back garden. it also led me to think, what would I get if I got a second bike? If I'd got room for a second bike, there's various things that do appeal to me. I wouldn't do like some do and have two identical bikes. I don't see the point of that. So it would have to be something completely different. I mean, with the state of the roads as they are at the moment, the ideal thing is probably an adventure bike, but I don't feel I'm tall enough to have an adventure bike. I know some were a bit braver than me. They some quite small people, or lightweight people compared to me. One that springs to mind is username Kate. It's a channel I've watched for quite a few years, and I did actually bump into her at the NEC about 3 years ago, and she's quite small, and I did ask her how she goes on with these big bikes, and she says, just brave it, just go for it. And I thought, no, I don't feel that confident. I feel a bit more breakable. I'm getting old now. So I do like to have something that I can touch the ground easy enough on. Coincidentally though, I had a go at off-road riding before I'd got my licence, and I think there were eight of us, and the others that I spoke to were quite surprised I was trying it without having a licence. I said the only time I'd ever ridden a bike other than a moped when I was 16 is 2 or 3 mates had got them, and I just had a very short go on them. And I did realise that's okay with the gears, because I could drive a car, and it's pretty much the same principle apart from your legs doing what your hand does and vice versa. So, and I had a go at off-roading. The bikes were quite tall there and heavy, and I did fall off several times, as you expect to when you're doing a bit of off-roading, but that a bit softer landing than falling on a road, I suppose, and damaging yourself and the bike. So I do like to be able to get to flat-foot it. So I think an adventure bike as a second bike was a bit out of question. I do like scooters as well as bikes. I always have done. In fact, I've got pictures of me as a child of probably about 6 or 7 from round about the time when the Mods and Rockers rivalry. I've got a picture of me in a leather jacket with a little push bike and a smart blazer and a kid's scooter next to me. If it works properly, I'll put it up on the screen, because I'm going to have a go at these, putting photographs in the screen, see if that turns out alright. So we're just approaching Parwich now, and I'll shut up and put some music on in a minute. Oh, regarding this off-roading that I did, it was sort of an anniversary present from my wife and daughter. I think it was a silver wedding. Well, it was, because it was 2003, which is the year before I actually decided to do some training and get my licence. My actual present was a helicopter ride, but I really didn't fancy going up in a helicopter. I don't mind going in an aeroplane, but I've got to think about helicopters, that if the rotary blades stop, then it comes down, and then I know somebody who's sort of crash landed one, and it didn't appeal to me at all. So because my present was one of these red letter day experiences, I rang the company up and said, can I swap it for something else? And so they looked into it, and yeah, you can go and do an off-road motorbiking experience. So that's how I ended up doing that. It was Bury in Greater Manchester, so quite about 50 miles away from here, probably a bit more. And I went and did that, and I did actually tell the instructor that it wasn't actually my present to do that. My present was the helicopter ride, and he said, "Oh well, we had somebody in recently. He managed to do both because he was doing his off-roading and he broke his leg, and our ambulance came for him," which not really funny, but it's a bit ironic, really. So we're in Parwich now, which is quite a nice little village. So I'll put a bit of music on and I'll start prattling on again. Later. Right, we've just turned on to the A515 now, which we're only on for a few hundred yards, and then I turned down towards Alstonefield. Now, I filmed around there about 2 or 3 years ago, but in the anti-clockwise direction, so this time I'm going the other way round, and then turning off towards Hulme, towards the T-Junction Cafe, where I called last week and had a drink there, so I thought I'll finish off at the same point where I should have finished filming last week. Might as well stick with the same route, as I've already put it in the relive out to put on the map at the end of the video. So now approaching, I think it's the River Dove that's just down the bottom here. Quite a bit of this road's quite gravelly. In a minute or two I'll get to a junction that's quite gravelly at the bottom, and last week I noticed that, but I've forgotten exactly where the gravelly bit was, and I sort of came to the junction and thought, if I got to slam the brakes on here, then it's not going to stop very easily. Don't think it's this junction, I think it's the next one, or it might have been that one, I don't know. The one that felt quite not very good, like it should have been swept. I don't know if they still send road sweepers around, but they don't seem to in these country lanes. At one time, whenever there'd been any wash down after the storms, the Highways Authority used to send the hired sweepers round to clear up, because they can be quite dangerous if it's hilly leading to a junction and you sort of not got much traction. It's like trying to stop on ice, but luckily the roads around here are fairly quiet, but not very good really. It's so much loose gravel. I'm wondering if it's this one here. I think we'll come to another junction here. No, it's not that bit. It seems alright here. So over to the left there's the river, or just approaching the river. This seems to be the only bit round these parts that's quite busy with tourists, even though there's a lot of nice roads and nice villages. I suppose it's the river that attracts people to come and visit. I noticed there's a few people fishing that I went past. I know there's the good views coming in both directions. That's why I thought, as I did it anti-clockwise last time, I'll do it clockwise this time. So I do like to ride on these narrow roads. So going back to what I talked about earlier, about what I'd have if I had a second bike. At one time I used to be quite attracted to Harley Davidsons. In fact, that's another experience day I went on. This time it was for a 50th birthday present. I went to Wales doing a Harley Davidson experience, and bearing in mind that I'd only passed my test on a 125, and not had any riding experience in the meantime, and then my next ride on a bike was on a 1200 Harley, and I thought, is this going to feel a lot too big from what I've done my lessons and tests on? And it was actually based at the Royal Welsh Showground in Wilth Wells, and I thought, well, probably as I've got no riding experience, or no significant riding experience, maybe they'll just send me round the showground getting practice using the bike. But like 10 minutes I felt really confident on it, so went a couple of ride outs out in different directions round the Welsh valleys and reservoirs, and it was a great day's experience. We had a morning trip, came back for some sandwiches, and then an afternoon trip, and I think we did about 100 miles in total. So it was quite a good ride out, and really enjoyable. But I've gone off Harley Davidsons a bit. I think they're quite expensive for what you get. The equivalent to this Kawasaki I've got in a Harley would be about twice the price, and I don't see that it's twice the value. And considering that I do a lot of these little country lanes, if I've got this Kawasaki that if I go on a group ride for distance, it's ideal. But riding round little country roads like this, you can make as good progress as on a little 125 as on the bigger bike, apart from when you get on steep hills. I suppose when I had the automatic scooter, it took the 125 scooter, it took quite a bit of going up hills at any great pace. And I do look at quite a few channels with small bikes, particularly monkey bikes, like on Sunday. I really enjoyed the monkey bike Sunday at the dealer in Claycross near Chesterfield. I did actually. I filmed a nice scenic route there on my last video on this channel. But then I've got the events channel called Scooters, Bikes and Classic Cars East Midlands, which gets a lot more views than this channel that I enjoy doing. The actual event, which is more of a slideshow with a bit of video, is on that channel. I did put the link on it on my previous video of the ride there. I put the link to the actual event. So like a small bike would definitely be something I'm interested in. If I had a second bike, I don't think I'd go for another one of similar size to this. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I don't feel like I could handle the weight for not so much riding it. I mean, it's once you're on, it's easy enough to ride a bigger bike, but it's quite heavy to push around and very heavy if you drop it. And I do like to be able to get my feet flat on the ground. On the ADV 350 that had the maxi scooter with a bit of off-road capability, or gentle off-road capability, I couldn't quite flat foot that. I could sort of get the ball off my foot on the ground, but that being a scooter, if I really needed to, I could hutch forward into the gap and get my feet down on the ground. So that was okay, but I just fancied a change to a motorbike, and that's what I've got now. So just heading out of Alstonefield, and then making our way. It goes on to a bit more of a main road, but it's a pleasant main road, and heading towards the cafe at Hulme End. So I'll add a little bit more music on now. So here we are, just approaching the main road that runs between Hartington and down towards Leek. So coming to the end of the ride, I think, in my opinion, it's some of the best scenery around. Part in Derbyshire, part in Staffordshire moorlands. I've no idea where the boundary is because it was somewhere on the back lanes. So obviously there's no major road signs to say that you're changing from Derbyshire to Staffordshire. So the destination here, I believe it's an old station, hence the name T Junction, because they serve tea and it's at a junction of the railway. Just pulling into the car park here, see if it's as busy as it was last week, because it was quite busy, and I think it's a bit warmer today than it was on the original ride. So the route that it shows is the one that I plotted last week. I think it said 16th of April on, so because obviously a week ago, but as far as I know, I've edited out the bit that it says the date, so that will, if it shows up, it's not the date. The correct date is the 23rd of April. So there's the cafe ahead, and then a bit of a visitor centre and toilets in what must have been the old station building. So I went in the cafe and had a nice ice cream, so it was a bit warm for a hot drink, and I'll finish off with the map of the route that I took, if anybody's interested in following the same road. Thank you very much. Until the next time, goodbye.